now know. The emergency services have concluded that initial emergency operation. We're now in the recovery period, which is why I suspect the tarpaulin has gone up there to shield those people who are working away at the mouth of Russell Square Tube, not only from prying eyes but also from the elements here. It's been raining on and off, at times very hard throughout the course of the day, and no doubt there will be a recovery process, not least of bodies but also of forensic evidence, which will be painstakingly gathered right now and throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the coming days, no doubt, as the operation continues. That is crucial for the police now as they try to establish exactly who was behind this series of apparently coordinated attacks. As they go through, they will examine painstakingly the debris from that explosion, looking for some kind of clue as to exactly the sort of explosives that were used. That in itself may give the police some kind of clue as to who was behind the attack, certain explosives associated with particular organisations. But that is a process which will go on long into the night and, of course, throughout the coming days. We know that, of course, there are no underground services running at all at the moment. Some perhaps may be back on by tomorrow. I don't think there's any sense of expectation whatsoever that you can expect any kind of services, certainly in this part of London, for some time to come.
Lisa, you've been down there for many hours now. Give us some kind of idea of the reaction of local people.
It really has been an extraordinary day, coming on the back, I think, particularly of events at Stratford yesterday, which of course will be the epicentre of where the Olympic Games will be held in 2012. To have such great joy in London yesterday, completely and utterly turned on its head by events today, I really do think there was genuinely a feel-good factor going about in a lot of parts of London yesterday, a feel-good factor this morning, which came abruptly to an end just before 9 o'clock, where a series of coordinated attacks began. And just talking to people around and about here, there is, on the one hand, a sense of bewilderment. They can't quite believe what's happened, and yet, at the same time, of course, they know that this is likely. The authorities have said it's not a case of if, but when. It's something which has overshadowed daily life. People have long since said, well, will London be a target? I think the problem will come is in the coming days as to whether or not people feel they can return to the underground services. It's going to be very, very difficult for them indeed. Some of the people I was talking to earlier, even though they knew that the underground is completely shut down at the moment, and they have had to literally resort to walking miles and miles across the capital on foot in order to get home, they actually said, well, even if there was a tube service, I wouldn't want to take it anyway. People are very nervous. Interestingly, a lot of the bars around here are quite full at the moment. Perhaps it's a British way of doing things. They're going, having a few drinks. There are also huge traffic problems. Perhaps they think they'll leave it till later to try and get home. Talking to people who've just been arriving here, they're saying there are big pockets of London where there is still very, very heavy congestion indeed. Other parts where the roads are completely empty. One taxi company was saying that in terms of bookings of people calling up and trying to get a car to come and pick them up from central London, they were telling people there is a 12-hour delay. So really, a lot of people, perhaps many thousands, perhaps even in the millions, still stranded this evening and finding it difficult to work out exactly how they will get home tonight.
Lisa, once again, thanks for the very latest down there.
Live to Scotland Yard now. Let's get the latest with our crime correspondent Martin Brunt. And Martin, the Met have released this new hotline number they want people to phone if they have any information, because of course human intelligence very often is the way that you get into these cells.
Yes, I think they're putting that out more in hope than expect. On many occasions, happy to talk and put up potential suspects. It doesn't happen like that when they're dealing with this subject. So they'll appeal widely for help. I mean, we don't know what witnesses they've on these 4 sites, but they'll hope that people will ring in. But I think the expectation is that it's unlikely that they'll be deluged with lots of information from people who suggest possible
reports we gather these places have been found. No details as yet, but have you any indication if the Metropolitan Police are still looking very carefully at various areas of London?
Well, there was an initial fear that there would be other bombs around the world will set off a bomb and then have another one to go off a few minutes later, having drawn in. But I've been asking about this story of the 2 unexploded bombs all day, and all day Scotland Yard have been saying that they've no knowledge of them. And as you said, this has appeared on an American website or agency.
Yeah.
And I think the difficulty is that sometimes the language is a problem, and there have been a number of suspect packages that have turned out to be completely innocent, and I think somebody's got their wires crossed.
And of course it's likely that in the days to come, as people are more alert at train stations and so on, that they alert the emergency services to these various cases and bags that will be left.
Yes, I mean, I think that's going to happen for days and days. There's a great nervousness, and where in the past you might ignore a discarded bag that you see on a tube station or anywhere else, I think the temptation will be to phone in and report it now. And every time you do that, the police or the forces are going to have to respond, and that will create further disruption.
Now, of course, the other aspect to the investigations is the forensic work that will be going on, particularly perhaps at the bus in Woburn Place, with suspicions that it may well have been the work of a suicide bomber.